Hi there, this is Dr. Evan Osar with the Institute for Integrative Health and Fitness Education. Welcome to this edition of Facebook Live for Integrative Movement Insider. In this series, and this is part 4 of a 4-part series, we've been discussing hip mobility. In part 1, we discussed the number one reason our clients lose hip mobility. Obviously, it's because of the sedentary lifestyle, it's because of injuries, surgeries, and traumas around the hip. However, it's also what our clients are doing, and one of the most common things our clients do that decrease hip mobility is they over-squeeze and tighten their glutes and their posterior hip rotators, and that decreases the ability of them to get into anterior pelvic rotation, which is needed for squatting, lunging, stepping, walking, all those activities that we need to create and maintain proper hip mobility. When we don't have proper hip mobility, we start to compensate through the low back and our knees, hence the reason so many of our clients have low back and hip issues. And one of the most common reasons people see me as a chiropractic physician and many of you as health and fitness professionals as well. So if we help our clients restore and gain and maintain hip mobility, you'll help so many clients with knee as well as low back issues. In part 2, we went to our first corrective exercise, or our most common go-to exercise, corrective exercise for improving hip mobility. And that's the anterior pelvic tilt position, or the hip hinge pattern. And we gave you the parallel version, parallel feet, and also the split stance version to improve the ability to move that pelvis, mobilize the pelvis over top of the femoral head to restore hip mobility in the sagittal plane. Last video, part 3 of the series, we talked about how common hip mobility exercises actually can decrease hip mobility in your clients when they're not respecting alignment and control of the lumbar spine. The more they stress their lumbar spine, the more limited hip rotation, especially internal hip rotation, will become. And that's why it's so important that you assess your clients before and after you do your mobility work, so you can see, did they really improve hip mobility, or did they just improve low back mobility, which then compromises hip mobility, which it often will do. So I showed you a very simple variation of how you can make your hip mobility exercises more effective and not stress out the low back. Now today, part 4, I want to discuss a functional exercise to maintain hip mobility, and that's the lunge. Lunge is a great pattern for the entire lower extremity, and again, to reinforce that idea of moving the pelvis and the entire thoracopelvic cylinder over top the femoral heads. Now, a lot of people are doing mobility drills like Spider-Man drills, where they're down on the floor like this, and they're coming in this position. Nothing wrong with this position if the client has no low back issues. But many of our clients that have hip mobility issues actually have low back issues. So in this position, I'm actually stretching my low back and my sacroiliac joint way more than I'm stretching my hip. Even though I feel a good hip stretch, I'm actually stretching the more flexible structures here. So again, that will also perpetuate those hip tightness issues because you're overstressing the low back. So here's how you can use the lunge position to continue to improve hip mobility, but still respect alignment and control of the lumbar spine, the pelvis, and actually train control of the hip, knee, ankle, and foot complex. So simply, just align the head and neck over the thoracopelvic cylinder, over top the base of support. As you step out into your lunge position, we're going to lean forward, basically hinging at the hips to hinge that thoracopelvic cylinder over top that forward hip, making sure the hip, knee, ankle, and foot remain aligned. So from behind, head and neck, thoracopelvic cylinder, hands on the pelvis, step forward, hinge, again, loading up that forward hip right here. The pelvis remains level. We do not want to see the client lunging into this position or lunging into this position here. The pelvis should stay aligned. The hip, knee, ankle, and foot should stay aligned as well. So that way, we create pure motion of the entire thoracopelvic cylinder over that forward hip, and we're able to control that position to teach our clients how to load that front hip and really maintain that alignment throughout their movement pattern. A great functional progression for your clients. You can also do the frontal plane lunge. It's basically the exact same pattern, just in the frontal plane. So from here, align the head and neck over the thoracopelvic cylinder. You're going to do a side lunge, loading up that front hip, or that side you're loading to, maintaining alignment of the thoracopelvic cylinder, hip, knee, ankle, and foot remain aligned, and then coming back out of the position. Lunge, load that front hip, or that side hip, I should say the side you're stepping to, and control. So from this side, stepping out, control that hip, keep that entire thoracopelvic cylinder aligned, hinge over top of that forward hip, that side you're stepping to, I should say, and then come back to control. So that way you're loading the hip entirely through the pattern and respecting the alignment of the thoracopelvic cylinder. So that way your lunge pattern then reinforces your hip mobility. It respects the alignment and control of your spine as well as your pelvis. You maintain that nice cylinder alignment. You maintain alignment of the hip, knee, ankle, and foot. You teach your clients how to reinforce hip mobility and actually start to improve hip mobility. Because the more you respect the alignment of the thoracolpelvic cylinder, the more you respect the alignment of the hip, knee, ankle, and foot, the more range of motion you've worked within the guardrails of your central nervous system. The central nervous system will start to increase range of motion because it knows it's protected and you're not stressing neural structures, so nerves coming out of your low back, and you're not stressing the joints themselves. This is Dr. Evan Osar with the Institute for Integrative Health and Fitness Education. Thanks so much for joining us in this 4-part series. I hope it helped explain how we use these concepts of the integrated movement system, alignment, breathing, control, to help our own clients and patients in their office so that you can be successful and continue to be successful with your clients and attract more individuals that need, want, and will pay you for your expertise. Make it a great weekend, and next week we've got a brand new topic, thoracic mobility, and how to use the principles of the integrated movement system, alignment, breathing, and control, to help your clients improve and maintain thoracic mobility. Take care.